I want to thank the press corps for being here today. It's good to be in Mobile. I came in last night and I slept here at my son's house who lives in Mobile with my daughter-in-law and our two grandbaby boys, so it was good to be in town. There's a lot going on, and today I want to talk about roads and bridges in the Department of Transportation. And what I have seen as I've watched and gotten closer in this gubernatorial race to what terrible mismanagement of a department of this state looks like. I've traveled around the state speaking to voters, and one of these issues you hear concern over is our tax dollars that are being spent, especially the gas tax, and especially the never-ending gas tax. There seems to be no accountability, no transparency, and when large government projects are rolled out, there's almost an expectation that cost overruns and financial mismanagement occur. Hand in glove with this is frustration, as it should be. Frustration over the amount of control the insiders and special interests have over this governor and our state budget. And I'm not just saying that. This is true. It's undeniable. Frustration that our state government seems responsive only to those that can afford a lobbyist. You know, this concern and frustration are the most apparent when we start talking about infrastructure projects, meaning roads and bridges. It's that simple. And for an example, in the Mobile market, we need to look no farther than the I-10 Mobile Bay Fiasco. Everybody in this county knows exactly what I'm talking about. We all know, people that live in Mobile and Baldwin County, we know and understand that we need to free up the congestion on Interstate I-10. Everyone knows that the key to remaining competitive in the manufacturing and shipping hub is to keep our goods moving smoothly in rail and truck and safely. So if we know this, why has it taken the state of Alabama so long to act on this bridge? It's been a saga. I've never seen so much drama over the last 3, 4, and 5 years. As a developer who has helped build bridges with private investment dollars, that's our money at risk, not taxpayers' money, I understand that the process for building infrastructure can be long. It requires patience, organization. But in this case, the decision makers turned what should have been a triumph, a marquee project, a magnificent suspension bridge over the bay, into an absolute fiasco. Early on, there was a talk of a $6 toll. I thought, are you kidding me? $6 to avoid the tunnel. I remember thinking at the time, nobody is going to go for that. And that's exactly what happened, and it collapsed on its face. Millions were spent on engineering plans. We got nothing to show for it, and in the meantime, there was very little transparency in the process. That's why I'm sending a request to John Cooper, the director of the Alabama Department of Transportation. For information, John serves at the pleasure of the governor. He is the representative of the governor. The governor solely runs the Department of Transportation. What I and all taxpayers need to know is this. It's not too much to ask. We'd like to know all the fees and compensation that were paid to landowners and attorneys representing landowners relative to any condemnation proceedings. We'd like to know the fees and compensation paid for upfront conceptual design, fees paid for preliminary engineering work, fees paid for project management services, fees and consulting firms for work performed relative to soil testing, foundation, any fees initially by the Alabama Department of Transportation for work other than engineering and soil test. We need to know these things. They tell me $60 million has been spent already on the Mobile Bay Fiasco, and thus far, we have nothing to show, just talk, no bridge. That's the problem. All talk, no action. I was fortunate to learn these numbers. Now, I can't verify 110% that the number's 60 million, but I've got pretty good intel in Montgomery, and I guarantee you that's going to be close. The I-10 bridge is really the simplest thing that I've ever seen, and I was watching this from a distance for several years, and I know this business. The first question I asked myself when this came up, I said, how many out-of-state cars are using the Bayway? That's the first thing I wanted to know, because the state didn't have the money, and you knew the bridge by itself was about $950 million. So I want to know how many people would be using this bridge from out of state. 50%. And they didn't have the money. Then the next interesting thing that happened was all of a sudden what used to be a $950 million project jumped to almost $2 billion. And I'm saying, what is going on here? The bridge, I knew roughly that it would be under $1 billion. Well, here's what happened. The DOT, and you got some real geniuses over there, they woke up one day and they said, while we're at it, we're going to rip out the entire Bayway. This Bayway has 50 to 75 years remaining on it. Who rips out perfectly good Bayway in concrete? You just build additional lanes as you go along. They should have just built the bridge back then, and you'd be opening it up for traffic today. A lot has been spoken around the question of tolls on the bridge. My view is this: let the out-of-staters pay for it, or at least pay for 90% of it. That's what that's what they do in Florida. They let out-of-staters from Alabama pay the tolls on those toll roads down in South Florida. We've run the numbers, and I can tell you unequivocally that if you built a $950 million suspension bridge over the Bayway, you can do it, and out-of-staters at about a $3 to $3.50 toll, not the $6 toll, would pay 85 to 90% of it. And then the state could put a little money in it, but not all of it. So that's how you manage these things. And the idea of ripping the Bayway out, and the reason they gave for it because they needed to raise it. And they were worried about the bay rising due to greenhouse gases. And I thought about that, and I said, what? They're worried about flooding it, so they're going to raise the Bayway 8 or 10 feet. Well, I'm here to tell you, we're in the Admiral Sims. And if the bay rises 10 feet, we're on the second floor, or we'd probably be swimming right now, because the water would be just about up to that's the lunacy, that's what you're dealing with. And it wouldn't be so funny, but it's true. And now they got $60 million of Alabama taxpayers' money invested in this, and I have no clue where it goes. Maybe they get the feds to come in, maybe they don't. We'll see. But I've never seen anything like it. This is what mismanagement looks like. But before the Mobile fiasco really got to full swing, the governor and the department had proposed another special project. And this one's even crazier. I refer to it as the West Alabama Boondoggle. And this is a dandy. Now this is the bridge, this is the road project that they want to expand and build out from Mobile to Tuscaloosa. Now 43 to 69. And on the face of it, the idea of using $750 million to widen 43 to 69, Mobile to Tuscaloosa, seems like a reasonable idea. But the governor has announced that she will pay for all of this with total state dollars, no federal money. This means she is foregoing the federal matching dollars and thus sticking the entire financial cost to the taxpayers of Alabama. Almost $1 billion A cool billion with a B. The total revenue, state revenue, gas tax revenue into the state of Alabama is only about $900 million or so a year. So they were willing to sweep the whole thing in 1 year and throw it on a project that runs up the west side of the state. All to widen a road which, according to ALDOT's own data, has some of the lowest traffic counts in the state. I want to point to a couple of my very well done, prepared charts by my trusty. This is how money is spent. In the state of Alabama, you've heard of federal matching dollars. And these percentages can change a little bit. But where you have federal help, the state puts in 20%, and the federal government, the Federal Highway Administration, matches it with 80%. Now, really all that's going on is our federal taxes go up and they're just coming back to us. So they're not doing you any real big favors. But that's how it works. So in other words, over the course of a couple of 3 years, if you let $3.75 billion, 20% of it would be state dollars, and about 80% would be federal dollars. So you'd have about $3 billion in federal and about $750 million in state. So on this West Alabama boondoggle, they're going to take 100% state money and they won't get any federal matching funding. So in other words, they're willing to trade $3 billion for $750 million. They're giving back $2.5 billion. Never seen anything like it. We need some mathematicians in Montgomery. Never seen anything like this. There's too many other projects in this state. This line is the project they want to build with the state, 100% state money. But you ought to look at the traffic counts. On each side of Linden, Alabama, 5,000 cars a day. 3,000 cars a day. Down at McIntosh, 8,000 cars a day. Up near Tuscaloosa, Mineville, 13,000. Now I want to put this in perspective for you. This is just around Birmingham. 60,000, 107,000, 71,000 on 65, 67,000. Up in Huntsville, the 565, 100,000 cars a day. I-85 going to Auburn, 40,000. This is what you call full capacity highways that need attention. 5,000 and 3,000, and they're talking about spending $750 million of your state tax dollars on this one project, and it's going to cost you over $2 billion in federal matching funds. That, ladies and gentlemen, is not very smart. And then there's another one, and this is sort of my favorite in a lot of ways. I call it the I-65 Evergreen Neverending Bridge project. They're certainly not concerned about using your gas tax dollars and your newly increased gas tax dollars efficiently. So this is it. It's right there at the Evergreen exit on 65. Now it's been under construction forever, probably since Kay Ivey was knee-high to a grasshopper. Not a high stepper, a grasshopper. Still not completed. How many people in this room have ridden by that bridge at Evergreen? Come on, raise your hand. Do you even remember when they started building it? I didn't even bother to look it up. So she refused to take leadership and make our tax dollars work. This is a governor's fault. This is what governors do. The blame lies in the governor's desk. That's where the buck stops. That's who runs this department, spending billions of your money. Her job is not to let the bureaucracy at the ALDOT and the special interest run wild. Her job is to hold their feet to the fire and to demand accountability and swift conclusions to public work projects. But instead of finding savings and accountability, transparency, Kay Ivey did something far worse. In the name of building more roads, Kay broke the arms, strong-armed the legislatures to pass her forever increasing gas tax and threatened them. Never heard of such a thing. Put their name on a wall on a hit list. This is inappropriate. Governors don't do this. Shouldn't be allowed. It's petty. It's inexcusable. Maybe Kay thought higher gas prices would keep Alabamians off the road so much. Certainly one way to ease traffic congestion. You know, maybe she wanted to reduce the need for oil. Maybe she was trying to encourage the battery business. I don't know. But I'm not going to sit in an hour at Publix on a Friday afternoon waiting to charge up my car battery trying to get to the beach. I want gasoline. Unfortunately, these poorly managed road projects are just more example of Kay Ivey's poor leadership and bad use of resources. She wasted $1.5 billion state surplus on hand this year alone to special interests and quasi-government agencies. She did nothing to cut grocery tax. I will eliminate the sales tax on essential groceries. Nothing to cut occupational taxes. And her only regret was that she didn't create 10 Vegas-style casinos. That was her only regret. When I heard that, I thought, did I hear that right? And I'm thinking, your only regret is you didn't get your 10 casinos. And meanwhile, over the last dozen years, we've gone from 20 to 30 in math and reading to the bottom of the pack. But that wasn't the craziest thing. When I heard the governor say that, I thought to myself, did she really say that? I wouldn't say, what kind of person would say such a thing? That's like saying, I'm going to rob a bank, and I regret I didn't do it. These people, they're crazy. I don't know what they're thinking these days. This is all just a vehicle to raise more money for government on the backs of working families of our state. Let me give you some examples of where your money, part of this $1.5 billion has gone. 5.2 to the Marine Environmental Sciences. It's got a nice big fancy name, consortium, to help pay for, and this is what it is, cafeteria serving line modernizations. In other words, they're going to make a cafeteria line more efficient. $700 million to the Department of Public Health for a new mobile facility screening for the Lions Club. I love the Lions Club. I've spoken to the Lions Club. $700 million. Millions and millions for new buildings. It's not tens of millions. We're talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. These things aren't bad things, but they're not necessary and they're not priority. Does anyone in Kay Ivey's office know that we have a mental health crisis in Alabama? Does anyone in Kay Ivey's office know that we have a fentanyl problem in Alabama? Does anyone in Kay Ivey's office know that one of the main human trafficking lines in this country is I-20 moving through Alabama, through Tuscaloosa, Birmingham, going to Atlanta, and that we only have 450 state troopers on our public highways and we're supposed to have 900. And they're spending our money on this junk instead of the stuff that matters and is a legitimate function of government. She signed off on a budget that included $2 million in state funding for the first transgender charter school in the South. They refer to it as an LGBTQ affirming school. But the faculty and teachers held a drag queen show for the kids a month ago. And then they posted it on their public Facebook page for the whole world to see. We'd have never known it. Arrogance, pride. Pride is their banner. It's their battle cry. Pride cometh before the fall. And that's what's going to happen. When you drive up to this school, this is a public school, Birmingham, just like any other school, has a flagpole. And on that flagpole, they're flying the American flag like every other school, except they are also flying the LGBTQ rainbow flag attached to the American flag. Flags represent something. It's your home. If you might, or your lake house, or your hunting camp, you may fly an American flag and a flag of the state of Alabama, St. Andrew's Cross. Some might fly the American flag and the Star of David. That sends a message. That means I'm an American and I support Israel. Some might fly their American flag, and they might fly an Auburn or Alabama flag. That's sending a very clear message. It means I'm an American and I'm for Auburn, Alabama. So whenever you do this, when you fly a flag, you're sending a very clear message. And this school, which is a public school, paid for with $2 million of Alabama taxpayer money, is sending a very clear message that this school, with public money, we are pushing forth our agenda, and their agenda is to push the LGBTQ agenda on the children in that school. And they're doing it for all to see. There are many things that the $1.5 billion surplus could have been used for, including repealing their gas tax. This governor felt it better to tolerate the mismanagement, waste your money, and let the boys keep making money off projects that are unnecessary and never ending. Kay Ivey owns this financial mismanagement. The buck stops with the governor. It is time for a change. As governor, I will put the taxpayers and the people of Alabama first. I will repeal Kay Ivey's gas tax and eliminate this grocery tax. I will end earmarking and spending of all our money in one budget. I will end the funding of transgenderism, this agenda in our schools, and I will shut down the Magic City Acceptance Academy, and I hope and pray it's shut down before I get there. And I will get rid of Common Core and everything that goes with it, the whole shoot and caboodle. And I will appoint a team of forensic accountants that will review every budget line in every contract. The days of pork barrel spendings for lobbyists and special interests are coming to an end. There will be no more bridge fiascos, road boondoggles, or forever ending construction projects that never come to an end. The reason I run for governor is because I have children and grandchildren. And I look at this country, and like many of you know, it's time to fight back. Some governors are fighting to protect their states. Kay Ivey's been asleep at the wheel. We all know it. Everybody knows it. This is not about Kay Ivey. This is not about me. This is about this state. And this is about getting this state on track at the right time. As governor, I will protect our businesses from Marxism and from big woke corporations that try to hold our workers hostage. I will protect our taxpayers from the special interests who are leading Alabama by the nose. They have their way without resistance. We'll build roads, we'll build bridges, we'll do it efficiently. And Alabama will lead the nation because we won't go the way of the world, and we'll stand for what is right, what is just, what is true. And as I stand here today, I will lead this state to the best of my ability. So help me God. Thank you very much. I'd love to answer any questions or that anybody might have, or any comments on any matter. We'd love to keep it on the infrastructure subject, but you don't have to.
I have a question. You talked about eliminating the grocery tax, and I think you said, at one point you said on necessary groceries. Was necessary a modifier to just groceries in general, or were you talking about necessary groceries?
Essential.
Or
So
essential,
essential groceries would be turkey, chicken, bread, fish, coffee, butter, salt, pepper, etc., etc. Non-essential groceries would be Budweiser, Miller Lite, Corona. Everybody got the picture. Not booze, but food. What people have to eat, feed their families.
Another quick question. I know you've made the comments about this before, but I wanted to ask you about it again. The state's passage of medical marijuana. What's your stance on that?
We're going to repeal it. What they call the Compassion Act. Now, what this was the governor of this state signed a bill creating medical marijuana law, and they gave it this snazzy name called the Compassion Act. When they said the Compassion Act, you should have known it was a con. This has nothing to do with compassion. It has nothing to do with helping sick people. You can, right now, your doctor can prescribe with a real prescription medical marijuana, and you go to CVS or Walgreens in a prescription and you pick it up. So all this stuff they told the people of Alabama is not true. This is nothing but a syndicated drug cartel, of which the state of Alabama is in the game, to put dispensaries of pot shops in every little town, sell the licenses in each town to people that are extremely powerful and wealthy, and their end game is to slowly, on a slippery slope, get to the recreational marijuana. That's all this is about. This is about greed on a level that we've never seen before in the history of this state. If they did it, if this goes through, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see these pot shops, and people will walk into these pot shops because they think they're buying medicine, and they're going to buy this pot from a guy that's standing behind the counter. He has no medical training. He has no education. He was working at Walmart or the car wash last week, and he's sitting there selling you your pot because you have an issue. Maybe you're depressed or something. Something worse than that. Even if you go in to buy the pot, you throw a credit card across the table. The guy says, I can't take a credit card. You say, why not? We're a cash business. State law only allows a cash business. State law, Kay Ivey's law, also allows that anybody that buys this stuff can have over 70 doses of this pot in their possession. Nobody needs 70 doses. They'll take it, walk right out the door, and peddle this stuff on the street. This needs to be repealed before it ever gets a toehold. Right now, here's the math. States that have passed medical marijuana laws have seen a 22% increase in opioid deaths. 22%. People that have used pot, marijuana, are 6 to 1 times more likely to have opioid problems, addictions down the road. So if there is any question as to whether this is a gateway drug, the data is very clear and speaks otherwise. And the state of Alabama, the governor of this state, let this happen. It must be repealed, and I intend to do so.
Can you give an example of a woke corporation in Alabama that's, quote, keeping or holding employees hostage?
BlackRock. This week, or last week, or this week, what week was it? I got the coal miners' endorsement of Alabama, the United Coal Miners. I love these guys. The founder was a Republican in the 20s. And we have this magnificent tradition of coal mining in Alabama. Most of it's up in west side of Jefferson County and Tuscaloosa County. And we have good metallurgical coal, low sulfur coal here in Alabama. And BlackRock, which is the largest private equity group in the world, $10 trillion, actually is one of the principal stockholders of this. And they've been on a strike for a year. This is the longest running strike in the history of Alabama. And so the owner of the company, it's called Warrior Met and BlackRock, they have laid down on the table a requirement that if it is not met, they won't settle. And this is the requirement they're putting on our coal miners. And there's 1,000 coal miners. So you're talking right at 1,000 families in this state who are out of work. And this is their requirement. They've said, if you miss 4 days at work for any reason, including you could have the COVID, you could have had the flu, you could have pneumonia, you could have broke your knee, you could have broke your leg, you're fired. Is there anybody in this room or anybody listening to this that would have agreed to that? That's what I'm talking about. And this is a woke corporation. If you want to see the crazies, go to the About portion on BlackRock. This is the essence of woke America. They actually made Bloomberg's list of woke companies, except in Bloomberg's eyes, that's a good thing, not a bad thing. I want our coal miners back to work. I'm tired of seeing them ship workers from Tennessee and Mississippi in here and taking the place of Alabama families. And we need to protect the coal industry for posterity. These people, it's generational. Generation after generation after generation do this work. And I hate to lose it. Now, I will be honest. I told them, I don't know if they'll get me in a tunnel 2,000 feet down, because guys that do that are a different breed. And plus, they all look like the Green Bay Packers as well when you look at them. Anything else, please? Yes, sir.
I'm really glad to see you lay out the problem with the roads and create a narrative that puts the responsibility on Kay Ivey here. I think that you can do the same thing when it comes to education, and I would ask you to look very carefully at the details of the last year. Kay Ivey has been in office since 2010. It's her responsibility right now, but she's in the broader context of what she's done over the last 12 years. It's all part of a systematic downgrading of education along the lines of Common Core. The important thing, I think, that we can bring out is that Alabama Conservative Coalition put together a team that briefed her chief of staff, Joe Bonner, and her education guru, Nick Moore. And then that team brought the same information to Superintendent Mackey and his entourage. The team did not get to see Governor Ivey, but Terry Lathan did this past summer. And the argument here is she knew exactly what the problems were. There's no way that you can hide this. She told Terry Lathan that she would form a, quote, task force to study the problem. That got overrun because all of these people who were up for re-election, they needed to do something about being 52nd in education. They passed the Numeracy Act, another boondoggle. You talk about wasted money.
I think that was 100 million, about 100. Let's just round it up, about 100.
Up to 100 million. But the point is, you can develop an argument, just like you did here with the same charts, and hang this on her. She deserves to have it hung on her, and she needs to be gone.
We're going to put the light of day. There's nothing like clarity and light for people to see. Anything else? Any other questions? Mr. Poor, you've already worked me over once today. You're going to let me go again? You're going to let me out this afternoon?
How about this? One of the big things when Rebuild Alabama was getting pushed, a lot of the opponents said it was the road builders that were promoting that, and they had their influence in Montgomery was being exerted for this. How much do you think the road builders are involved in these projects and promoting these projects as part of the governor's agenda?
Well, they're extremely involved. I mean, they're road builders. I mean, road builders are road builders. House contractors are house contractors. They want to build houses. Shopping center guys are shopping center guys. Everybody, I mean, nothing's wrong with free enterprise. The issue is the governor. The governor is the one who has to make the decisions on where to appropriate the money. The fact that these people want this and push for it, that's freedom. You can do that. You can do what you want to say. You can do what you want. The problem is in the governor's office. And I can tell you this, there's one question I ask myself, or I will ask as governor, on everything, on every decision, is it in our people's best interest? It's really that simple. And if it is, you do it. And if it's not, you won't. For example, on the West Alabama Boondoggle, they walk in and says, Governor, we want to build this out because we want to help get growth going in West Alabama. And I get all the arguments, try to create something. I'd say, good. And they said, and I'd say, well, what's it going to cost? And they say $750 million. And I said, really? So the feds are going to pay their 80%? No, the feds are not going to pay. Feds won't put any money in this. Only state dollars. And I said, well, why won't the feds put it? Because it's not important enough. So we're going to have to pay you state dollars to do it. And I'd say, now what you're telling me, you want me to put a year's worth of tax, almost a year's worth of gas tax revenue in this one project with traffic with only 5,000, 3,000, and 13,000 when you have everything else, 80,000 down here, 40,000, 100,000? I'd throw them out of the room. That's how absurd this is. On its face. There's a legal term for that. Prima facie. But I'm not a lawyer. Anything else? Thank y'all for coming. And there will be more of these. There are other issues that we're going to talk about. This race is getting short. We're 2.5 weeks or so. And it's time to drill down on the stuff that really does matter. Thank y'all so much. Appreciate you coming today.